So hello, this is a quick video on how can we change worry. It's not going to be a very long video, and it's more about identifying what worry is so that you know that not all worry is bad worry. So the first question is, who worries? Well, I guess some people worry some of the time, whilst others seem to worry all the time about everything and anything. So it's not worry itself that is the problem. It's pretty much what you do with it and how much of it you seem to engage in. So the 7 steps to stop worry. Number 1, and this is the step I really want to encourage you to focus on in this short video and to be asking yourself. Do you engage in productive or unproductive worry? Now, if it's productive worry, you're going to get results. You're going to have solutions to the things that are causing the worry, and it's going to result in change, hopefully positive change. If it's unproductive worry, you will find that you ruminate on it, that it tends to get larger, it snowballs, that it's really not results driven, and that the outcome of it seems to be worse than the actual question that you're asking. So whatever the focus of your worry is seems to grow and become so big that eventually you're feeling stressed, you have a headache, you have digestive problems, you can't sleep, it's impacting your concentration, your appetite, a whole heap of physical symptoms that may accompany it. But the difference is productive worry gets results, whereas unproductive worry ends up with you feeling a lot worse in the end. Number 2, accept reality and commit to change. Now, as caregivers, it's really hard to accept our reality because we have to realize that the person that we love, the person we care for, the person that we want to have in our lives forever is slowly disappearing before our eyes. And there is no easy way to put this, so I'm just going to say it. But the person that we love is going to die of a horrible and debilitating disease. Now, that is the reality. Now, if we commit to trying to change that, we're going to end up in a pretty bad place, because unless we're neurobiologists, scientists, medical doctors, or have received some $1 million grant where we can set up some sort of scientific inquiry into the cause and the cure of FTD, we're not going to be able to change the outcome. And that is the reality. Now, I know it's harsh and I probably don't sound very sympathetic in the way that I have said that, but unfortunately it is the outcome of dementia at this point in time at least. Now, we can't change that. So at some point, we have to accept that there is an outcome to our situation that is inescapable, whether we like it or not. Now, that doesn't mean along the way there are things that we can worry about and we can perhaps invoke positive change for. We can manage behaviors. We can help people be calm and settled and somewhat peaceful throughout their condition. So we can look at the symptoms and we can manage them and our own symptoms and management. And to do that, we need to commit to change, but we also need to accept the reality and identify what can and can't be changed. Challenge your worried thinking. Number 3. So if you identify that your worrying is not going to result in positive change, then you need to challenge what you're worrying about. And you need to challenge what you're interpreting and the way you're interpreting it. So the thing you're worrying about might be unpleasant, but if you start to interpret it in a way that it's catastrophic, that it's beyond your capacity to cope, that you're never going to be able to deal with this, then you're going to dig a very large hole that you're going to find it quite difficult to get out of. So identify what can and can't be changed and what's productive and unproductive. Find the things that you can change and commit to the change that's involved. Number 4, focus on the deeper threat. Now, sometimes you will find yourself worrying about trivial little things, and you will ask yourself, well, why am I worrying about this? And really, it's not that's not the thing you're actually worrying about. It's a bigger thing. And I find that I can do this sometimes too. You know, the smallest little thing might set me off. It might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and I'll stop and think, how did I let such a little, you know, meaningless thing upset me so much, when really it's the deeper threat. It's the elephant in the room, so to speak. So identify what the deeper threat is, identify the things that set you off, and realize that it's the bigger things that are perhaps driving the smaller, trivial worries in your life. Turn failure into opportunity. So when things don't work the first time, when you don't get the results you want, don't give up. Okay, realize that for every time you fail, there's probably, you know, another 10 times where you'll succeed. However, for some reasons, we allow the failures and the disappointments to overwhelm us, and they have much more emotional power than the positive opportunities and the good outcomes. So when things don't work out the way you want, don't let it worry you, don't let it get the best of you, and don't give up. Number 6, use your emotions rather than worry about them. So what we find is that emotions tend to override the rational part of our brain. And you've probably heard, you know, it's an old adage, my head and my heart. Well, it's not really my head and my heart. What it really is on a neurobiological level is the limbic system and the frontal cortex. So the limbic system, it's a part deep, it's a deep structure, a small structure deep in our brain that's responsible for emotional regulation. And the worry part, the attention, and the higher level processes are in the frontal cortex, or the frontal part of our brain. And what tends to happen is that the emotions override the rational part, and we focus on the emotions, and they tend to win. So you need to notice the emotions, realize that they're there, but not let them get control. Accept that they're emotions, and accepting that they're emotions, there's really nothing to worry about. Emotions change. And as you know, your emotions can change day to day, minute to minute. Sometimes they're temporary. We need to gain control of the frontal part of our brain, the rational part, and use our emotions rather than worry about them. So when our emotions are not helping us, allow ourselves to notice that they're just a physical response, an emotional response to something, and that soon they will pass. And I had a great example of this only last weekend. I got rather angry to the point that I was almost out of control with my child. He was driving me insane. And if you're a mother or a grandmother or any sort of carer, you'll know that we all have our breaking point. And last weekend I reached mine. So no one is exempt. And when I got myself into such an emotional state, it was very difficult for me to rationalize. So I had to use that emotion. I had to say, okay, I'm noticing I'm angry. I am feeling very angry, and tell myself that it will pass. Now, it did take a while for it to pass. I can tell you I was pretty upset, but it did pass. And certainly a couple of hours later, I was back to my baseline. But emotions have a way of taking control of us. So we really have to notice them, use them in a positive way, and accept they're temporary. And the last one is take control of our time. And as caregivers, that's something we often fail to do. And seldom do we even have time in a day. We seem to cram too much into a very short moment. So we need to be a bit more wise about how we control and use our time. So the 7 steps to stop worry. Well, step 1, and again, repeating, this is the one, this is the take-home message for this video, is identify productive and unproductive worry. So we're not identifying whether we worry or not, because guaranteed everyone worries to some degree. But start looking at whether those worrying thoughts are productive or unproductive. And one way to do this is to sort of like use a scale. And if you have to write this down on a piece of paper, that's fine too. Write down how this worry is affecting you negatively. What is it costing you? Are you getting sick? Are you getting emotionally volatile, like in my example? Are you feeling out of control? Are you feeling like this sense of impending doom, that nothing is going to work out, that everything is unfixable? Are you starting to get GI problems? I mean, yucky, but a lot of people can get diarrhea and constipation and actual physical symptoms that cost a result of the worry. Then write down the benefits. So the benefits might be that you analyze, you think about the worry, you find solutions, you get answers, and then you commit to those solutions, and you ultimately fix the thing you're worrying about. You resolve it. So write down the costs and the benefits. Now, if the costs exceed the benefits, then you are probably experiencing unproductive worry. So breaking down unproductive worry, let's have a look. So number one, there is a question that has an answer. So this is a little bit about what I was saying. You'll get results. If you're worrying about something in particular, then you have a question and you will be able to find an answer. There is a solution to the worry. So it's controlled and it's contained and it leads to a positive, well, more often than not, a positive outcome, but it certainly leads to an outcome. Number two, you are focused on a single event, not a chain reaction. Now, with unproductive worry, things get blown out of proportion and control very quickly, like a domino effect. So the small thing turns into something bigger, and then you think, well, what if that happens? And what will that mean? And then how can that be possible if? And it just goes on until eventually the worry has consumed you. If it's productive worry, it's much more linear, and you have a problem that you can identify. You can give it some thought or worry, whatever you prefer to call it, and then you can generate ideas, solutions, and then you can commit to them, and it will result in change, an answer. So that's the difference between productive and unproductive worry. Number three down here, you're willing to accept imperfect solutions. Now this is important because I said before, more often than not, it will lead to a positive outcome. Positive outcome may not be the best outcome, and it's very rarely to be a perfect outcome. So being flexible in your expectations, okay? If you're willing to accept imperfect solutions, then you're less likely to get yourself into that domino effect of worry. There's a problem and might not be the best solution, but there's a solution and you're willing to accept that. You do not use your anxiety as a guide. Anxiety can be very deceptive, very misleading. Do not trust it. Much like depression. If you're in a depressive state, then you're unlikely to have your rose-colored glasses on. Things will be interpreted through a filter that's rather dark and gloomy. Anxiety has a similar kind of effect. If you're trying to use your anxiety as a guide, rely on your anxiety-inducing thoughts, then they're probably going to be unrealistic, unlikely, and pretty much impossible to achieve, okay? So be rational in what you're using as your pros and your cons. You recognize what you can control and what you cannot control. And again, another really important sign of productive worry. If something is beyond your control, like I said at the outset of this video, trying to find a cure for dementia, trying to find a time in the future where things will be good and normal again, well then, you're going to end up in a very bad place because it's an impossible and it's an unrealistic outcome and you have no control over that. So with the example of frontotemporal dementia caregiving, you can control aspects of that disease progression. You can make today and this moment a pleasant one for your loved one. You can make this moment, a little bit more joyful or a little bit more peaceful, a bit more happy. Okay, but if you're looking at the longer course, you're never going to be able to control the outcome. So letting go of that belief that things will ever be the same again, as hard as it is, they will not. So we have to accept each moment for what it is and realize that in every moment there is an opportunity for joy, for peace. There may be moments of sadness, but they are okay. They're moments, and each moment leads to a new moment. So keep in mind what you can control and what you cannot control, and let go of the things that are beyond your capacity to control. The signs of unproductive worry, I'm not going to go through it. It's pretty much the opposite of what I've just said. So anything that is not synonymous with productive worry, the signs of productive worry, is going to be unproductive worry. And you can see from that slide, it's pretty much the opposite to the previous one. So once you categorize your thoughts as unproductive, then what? Now, this is going to be the last slide, okay, because I'd like to spend a whole presentation on going through some of the strategies to control the worry. But briefly, we'll just read these ones. So mindfulness, and I have spoken about mindfulness before. Mindfulness is about being in the present moment. And you can see how this is related to not worrying about the things that are in the future that you have no control over. The things that might or might not happen, that could happen, that may happen, that haven't happened yet. Okay, let go of those. All those future-oriented thoughts are very much linked with anxiety. Conversely, let go of the things that have already happened, that are in the past, that are also beyond your control. You can't change yesterday, whether yesterday was wonderful or filled with grief. It's gone. There may be residual effects that carry through to the present, but the event itself is unchangeable. Now, the things in the past are very much linked with depression. So when we allow our thoughts to stay in the past, there's a tendency for the depressive symptoms to creep in. When we allow our thoughts to jump to the future, we get the worry and the anxiety. So mindfulness is a careful reminder, a gentle and compassionate reminder that we are here in this moment. And this moment is all we are promised, all we have, and all we have true control over. And each moment is but a moment. So by the end of this video, this moment will then be another moment. Now, when we really understand that on a deeper level, we can be happy and content for everything the moment brings, even when the moment brings sadness or grief, because we know it's not forever. It is not permanent. But for now, we are safe, and in this moment, we are here, and this is all we have. So being mindful of that also involves having no judgment. So when we feel things, when we feel deep sadness, rather than interpreting it as good or bad or horrible, miserable, or even joy as wonderful, fabulous, just notice. And you'll see number 2 here, become an observer. It's just noticing. So feeling the sensations, but not interpreting them. So just noticing the things that happen when you're happy, the feeling in your body, the way that the colors look, the smells, things change. And notice that it's just a moment. Gain distance. So start removing yourselves from the thoughts, from the feelings, from the stress, from all that emotional reactivity. Almost pretend you're just outside your body looking at you. Gain distance, because with distance we can get ourselves a little bit of an escape from the intensity of the emotional experiences that we feel. We can also do this through paying attention, purposeful attention on other things. And I will do a presentation on being able to pay attention to the breath, because the breath is something that is always with us, that we can focus on. And even just breathing in and out, 1, 2, and trying to get to 10, focusing carefully and mindfully on your breath. You'll find that it's very difficult without some kind of thought jumping in. And I call them popcorn thoughts, because they just pop in. So a challenge for you, if you want to try it, is try breathing in, 1, breathing out, 2, breathing in, 3, focusing on the breath as it comes in and out and counting each one. See if you can get to 10 without a thought jumping into your mind. If a thought does come in, don't worry about it. Don't judge it. Don't think, oh, that's bad, I've just had a thought. Just notice I've just had a thought and start the counting process again. I do this with my patients, and I can tell you very few of them can get to 10 without a thought popping in. Can you? Have a go. Describe what is in front of you. So this is just paying real close attention. It's amazing how little attention we actually apply to the things around us. For instance, can you think of the color of the carpet in your foyer at work, if you work, or something similar? We probably walk over that foyer several times a day, but do you actually know what color it is? Do you know what sort of fabric it is? Have you ever actually noticed? Probably not. So take time to notice what's around you. Look at the detail in nature, or even as you sit near a computer, have a look at the colors, the sensations, the experiences, the things that you feel on your skin. Is it cool? Is there a cool breeze? Are you warm? What's happening? But don't interpret it. Just notice. Suspend judgment, and that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say don't interpret. So just start being an observer, gaining distance, noticing things. Don't apply judgment or interpretation to the thoughts. Take yourself out of it and disappear to see reality. And really, everyone's reality is just their perception, their take on the world. One person's reality will be very different to the next person's, even if they go through similar life events. So reality isn't very real at all. It's the way that we perceive and interpret things in our own mind. So just to summarize, what I'm asking you to do today is decide whether you are a productive or an unproductive worrier. Don't ask yourself if you worry, because my guess is you do, and that's okay. But is your worry working for you? Is it generating solutions? Is it implementing change? Or is it causing you to feel stressed, depressed, tired, physical problems? And if so, then you're experiencing unproductive worry, and perhaps could really benefit from some mindfulness strategies and ways to disconnect from the emotional intensity that you're likely feeling. The next video that I do will be a little bit more clinical, and we'll have a look at some of those strategies and how to implement them in your life. But again, for now, let's start by being an observer and noticing, and start paying attention and seeing, are you a productive or an unproductive worrier? Okay, that's it for now. Thank you for your time, and I hope to provide you with another presentation very soon. I hope this was of some benefit. Have a happy, peace-filled day, and until next time, bye.